Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the ThePCelitist. My name is Woodsie.
My name is Shepherd.
And we have a discussion today that you might be disappointed in.
Wow. That was very clever.
Wasn't that funny?
The subject is, what is one game in particular, what are several games that have severely disappointed you? Not
Right.
just could have been better. Games that you thought severely, and I'll use that word specifically,
Right.
underwhelmed you.
Right.
I'm going to start, since this is my subject after all. Okay. First and foremost, I think to be disappointing, it's largely a function of expectations. If you buy a game from the bargain bin and it was either free or was very cheap, and you're not expecting much from it, you don't know much about it, and you end up not liking it, that's not really disappointing because you didn't have expectations to begin with.
Right.
If a game is hyped to holy hell and it sucks,
Right.
you're really disappointed.
That's why, Shepherd, you have just not embraced what the younger generation has and just be cynical about everything.
That's true.
And then you're never disappointed.
Ah, yes.
That's the great side of being a pessimist.
That's wise.
You're either delightfully surprised or you were proven right.
True. With that in mind, I will start first, and this is in no particular order. I was incredibly disappointed by Crysis 2.
Right.
Especially the multiplayer, but Crysis 2. And I'm going to skip right over Crysis Warhead and Crysis Wars, which were actually, Crysis Wars was a fairly fun multiplayer. Not
It's
at
more
all.
like a map pack.
Yeah, it was really a map pack with slight tweaking to the
Yeah.
player dynamics. But Crysis 2, we were so excited when we first heard that they were making a second one. We could not contain our excitement.
Right.
Because we thought, oh, now they've made a little more money, even though we learned that they didn't make a whole lot of money because people were pirating the hell out of that game. But we were so excited for it. Single player, it was a beautiful game. I don't think more beautiful than the first Crysis. It did some more things.
Right.
It was a different setting. So it was an urban setting as compared to a kind of a jungle setting. So it wasn't the same game. But it felt so much like they said, oh, we're so popular now. Let's make a game for as many people as possible. And that's exactly what they did.
Yeah.
And I thought that it really brought the series. I'm not saying it was one of the worst games of all time. I'm just saying, based on what I expected from it, it really went away from the original intent.
When you brought up this subject, I thought of Crysis 2. And the disappointment, the great disappointment in Crysis 2 was when I read that they were developing it for consoles.
Yes.
And that's when I was disappointed. That's when I fell down the cliff. Mm-hmm. But it was just confirmed when it actually came out. Mm-hmm. So it was like, there's Crysis 2? Excited. And then I kind of knew I was going to be disappointed. So it didn't really hit me like a Mack truck where I'm like, gosh, this game just sucks.
The moment I knew it was a console port was when you put on the binoculars and it shows you where ammo is. That's when I knew that this game was made for 12-year-olds.
Yeah.
Another game that really disappointed me, the War Z. I was so very enthralled when we started playing and we got in the alpha. I kept talking, because, especially for me, I'm such a huge fan of zombie survival games, particularly in MMO. And so I was so thrilled to see that this developer was coming out and they were kind of really making it a minimalist game where you have to sneak around and scrounge for resources, fight not just zombies but other players. At that time, I hadn't played DayZ, so I didn't have that as a frame of reference. We actually really loved the game at first. Me, you, and Rousdower, we all played together.
Right.
And then I think most of us here know what happened to the War Z. And did you get the email recently that their game servers were compromised? And user information was completely compromised. And they sent out this email saying, yeah, we got hacked. None of your billing information was accessed.
Now,
there are people who are just targeting them for destruction.
There are those who might not believe in voodoo blood curses. Okay? But someone put some sort of blood curse on these guys. Or they're just doing it to themselves. Probably a little of both.
I give them credit for apologizing as much as they have.
Right.
But they haven't made up for it.
Yeah.
Anyway. Another game that really disappointed me, and this might ruffle some feathers, Skyrim.
Yep.
I had never played any Elder Scrolls Oblivion. I didn't play any of those. before Skyrim. So
there are people typing replies right now.
Yes.
During the video of why you're wrong.
While we're recording live before it's even posted?
No.
Okay.
Like right as it's playing.
I was so excited
it's still
for
buffering.
It, not having any kind of history with the series. Because I thought this is going to be the game that gets me into the series. And I'm going to love it. And I might even go back and try some of the other ones just to get that full, rich flavor.
Right.
The game was fun for about 8 hours. And the combat, as I've said more than once before on this channel, the combat disappointed me so much because so many other elements of the game I thought were great. I thought the attribute system was great, the way you level up your character and put points into things. I thought the storyline was great. I thought when you're in towns, it felt great. I was really disappointed in the combat and the game world. Yeah, it was big. I don't really care about going to that big snowy peak up there. It doesn't, just because the game is huge and you can go anywhere.
Right.
That alone doesn't qualify it as a great expansive world.
Right. Well, you know what? I had just gotten through a review of Miasmata for True PC Gaming, which we just did, and I got to tell you, they added mechanics in there where you could actually fall down cliffs, which made climbing peaks kind of fun because there was a skill to it. Mm-hmm. Where, okay, I need to figure out where I can get up and where I can get down. So, but I know Skyrim, you just kind of walk up a mountain.
There's a skill to not walking off a cliff with your horse and falling to his death, but not yours.
Your horse dies?
More than once. I don't want to talk about it. That's actually the reason why it's disappointing. My horse died. Artex died.
Right. Well, can I share one?
If anyone got that reference, then
Artex.
Yeah. Go ahead, share your response.
Yes. I would have to say, in most recent memory, was Diablo 3. Now, that's like saying I breathe oxygen during the... Everyone knows. I mean, it's not like saying anything controversial, but it was just... And it wasn't a terrible game by any measure. It just wasn't a Diablo game. And it was bland. And you just don't... there was no pop to it. And I think a lot of people... I think if you go to Metacritic, it probably has a great... not user reviews. I think the user reviews were pretty honest. I think it's like a 5 point something, which is about where it should be. Versus the critic reviews are probably like 86-ish. Mm-hmm. Which makes me really curious about BioShock Infinite. Because I liked BioShock. I totally, like you were with Crysis, the sequels to Crysis, not like, oh, there's all this Crysis stuff coming out. That's how I was with BioShock 2. Like, someone said, like, oh, I'm playing BioShock 2, and I'm like, that came out?
Yeah, that's where I was with Crysis Warhead. I thought, wait, there's another one?
Yeah, exactly. So that totally went by me. I don't know what happened in BioShock 2. BioShock Infinite's supposed to be amazing. I feel like it's just so hyped.
I get worried now about the hype surrounding games.
Yeah. I feel like that anything that scores a 92 or whatever it is on Metacritic is probably too mainstream for me to like.
With the exception of Half-Life 2. Because it got a 96.
Yeah. That's an interesting... it's an interesting...
Metacritic, as far as... And if you are interested, go back to one of our prior videos months back called The Shepherd's Metacritic Research Project. But I believe 96 is still the highest score Metacritic's ever given. And it's more than just Half-Life 2, but that was the gold standard to more than just Metacritic. A lot of game outlets, like PC Gamer, they think Half-Life 2 is the greatest game of all time.
Right. There's something like Citizen Kane-ish about the Half-Life series.
Has a reference to it.
Yeah, like it's like, whenever there's like top 100 movies of all time, they always say Citizen Kane is like the best movie ever. Mm-hmm. And I don't even know if that's true based on the writer. Does he actually think Citizen Kane is the best?
Or is it canon by now? You just have to say it.
You just have to say it. I think so. I don't know. It's hard to say.
Yeah, you have to establish credibility, kind of like when Rolling Stone said, here are the top 500 songs of all time. The number one song of all time, according to Rolling Stone, was Bob Dylan's Like a Rolling Stone. I'm not saying it's a bad song. I'm just saying, I don't care if it's the greatest song in the world. It can't have the name of your magazine in the title of it.
There was just some bias there.
Don't get me started about that list. We'll do a separate video on how awful that list is.
Right.
Anyway, last one I want to say, and this is so-so in terms of disappointing. It was Rogue Warrior, and if you've listened to us for a long time, you know how much I hate that game. That game wasn't hyped a great deal, and so I wasn't expecting it to be a great game.
Right.
So this is the exception. I was so excited that one of my favorite books was being turned into a video game.
Right.
It's Dick Marcinko, the video game.
Right.
It was atrocious, and I was very upset, mainly because I paid AAA price for it.
Yeah. Like $50?
I think it was 60.
Wow. You know what? Oh,
I knew
it
wasn't going to be worth that. It turned out not to be worth $2.
I got one.
Go
Actually,
ahead.
It's a whole group. It's every LucasArts game after X-Wing Alliance. Everyone. Which, people are probably, it's old news by the time we post this. But do you know what happened to LucasArts?
Tell me.
They fired everybody.
Every single person, huh?
LucasArts, they fired everyone.
The person who did all the firing, did they then fire themselves? It's good to see some accountability.
George Lucas was trying to buy Mars, so they just had to fire everyone. No, they fired everyone, and they're just going to be licensing out stuff. Which this has nothing to do with this video, but they're just going to license out the Star Wars name to other... Which maybe we'll actually get a decent Star Wars game finally. And somebody's going to mock you, say, like, Knights of the Old Republic was good. And just stop it.
I didn't play Knights of the Old Republic, but if we had my cousin on, he would say that is one of the most disappointing games ever.
Oh, the online, the MMO?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
Wow.
How about Star Trek games?
Every Star Trek game. There's one great Star Trek game, and it's an old adventure game that I've never had the opportunity to play, but was supposed to be really good. That's it. I think every other one has been bad. So Star Trek, Star Wars having a bad run right now.
I think they'll survive.
They'll survive.
So I'm sure we can think of more examples, but for the sake of time, we're going to turn it over to you all. Games that have severely disappointed you. And they could be ones that we've said where it's a function of expectations. It may not be a dreadful game, but based on what you thought it would be, or
Right.
what you were promised it would be, it was really disappointing. Or games like Rogue Warrior where you knew going into it you were making a mistake, and though you had low expectations, the game was even worse.
Duke Nukem.
Oh, Duke Nukem Forever. I think we knew it wasn't going to be a super great game.
That's why it wasn't like as disappointed as like Diablo 3.
Yeah.
But going into it, you didn't know how bad it was going to be.
Knowing what they went through to actually get that game out and how many
Right.
times it just fell apart before they got it out. Oh, wow. So on that note, let us know what games have disappointed you.
My name is Woodsie.
My name is Shepherd. This is the PC Elitist signing out.